Blessings, everyone. It's David Ault, and I am so honored once again that you would take the time to join me here for the gathering. It's been a minute. It's been almost a month. My partner and I traveled to India. There I was focused on doing work for my foundation, but we were also blessed with a lengthy quality amount of time to be able to saturate and immerse ourselves in the beautiful energy of Mother India. My personal favorite was the Himalayas. Being in this sort of energy vortex of these famous mountains, I did come to realize that when you are in the proximity of a place like that, where thousands upon thousands of holy people, saints and sages, have done the work, and when I say done the work, it's as if that was the place, that was the gravitational pull for the holiest of the holies to denounce sort of the worldly structure and devote themselves to the God of their being. And so imagine innumerable, countless holy people, saints and sages, caves, where they gave up the qualities and the striving of humanity and just devoted themselves to an alliance, to an immersion with the One. And so you cannot help but feel that. And I came to realize too that for every known sage, every known holy man, every known prophet that did all of those things, that perhaps lived in these caves, there are thousands upon thousands of others that no one knows about. And so it's magnetic, it's electric, and I felt very sorrowful in leaving that place. I realized that there was so much of my own being that was familiar and longed to be in this place that felt like home. And so I could spend a lot of time, probably over the next year, trying to offer the experiences, the teachings, the insights, and it feels almost like trying to drink out of a fire hose. So I want to start small. And I thought, what would be the first thing that I would want to share with you? And it would have to be about one of these people, one of these saints that I had a direct experience of. The one I want to share with you, not many people know about. His name is Sambari Baba. The word Sambari means Monday, the day of the week in Hindi. And he got that name very similarly by acts that sort of model and replicate the stories that we know about Jesus. So you know the familiar allegory about the loaves and the fishes, about how all of these people gathered around to hear the parable teachings of Jesus on a mountainside, and then all of a sudden, as that crowd grew, there was hunger and an immediate need to be able to feed these people. And so the story that we have been taught is that Jesus just humbly asked for a food offering, which came from a child. And that food offering was loaves and fishes. And Jesus blessed these things, and there was enough to feed the multitude. There are many similar stories that we read in biblical text about the never-ending supply of that kind of offering, how for as many people as there was an inexplicable enoughness that nurtured and fed these crowds. So Sambari Baba, Monday, this particular saint was known to have fed people, and that they would come to see him on Monday. And Monday was the day where a man who had denounced everything, all that he had in his possession was a loincloth and I think a sack, and who resided in caves, who came from means, and at some inexplicable time in his young life, gave all of that up, very similar to the Buddha, and lived in these caves and ministered to people. He was known to have been able to see past, present, and future. He was known to have healed and fed and done the miraculous. And yet not a lot of people in the Western world know about him. But he's very well known in that region of the Himalayas where we were. So on these Mondays, it was said that he would have this massive plate, and people would just come and come and come, and the food on the plate never diminished. So he was given the name Sambari Baba. So I want to tell you how I was brought to the actual location of these caves of Sambari Baba. So we're in a place called Kenchi, and Kenchi Dham is the temple of Neem Karoli Baba, the main temple of Neem Karoli Baba, who happens to be the guru of my partner. So everyone wants to travel to Kenchi Dham to experience that. And we are there, and we would go to morning arti, which is the lighting of the flames, and we would, to the best of our ability, participate in the temple prayer songs. And we had a book. And so the second day that we were at arti, we have this book, and we're doing our best to follow the Hindi and the English translation. And so we're standing in the crowd, and we're moving from one station to the other to sing these morning prayers. And this Indian man's finger like kept coming into the prayer book and like follow the bouncing ball. He was trying to help us and assist us in keeping up with where we were. And we were doing a pretty good job, but his finger very insistently kept coming down onto the page. And so we kind of laughed and loved the help and support. And we went through the whole succession of the arti ceremony. When it was over, this man motioned for us, and he said, "Come outside where everybody leaves their shoes." And we followed him, and he began to talk to us, and he asked if we wanted to see some of the area. He was freely offering his time, his car, and his devotion to sharing this magnificent energy of the Himalayas. We said, sure. And it come to find out that this man, the man with the finger who was helping us, is known as the Riverman. His name is Jagdish, and he took it upon himself about 6 or 7 years ago to begin to clean up the rivers in this part of India. Trash is just overwhelming, and it's the same in Cambodia, it's the same in Guatemala, it's the same in any developing country that I have been in. And when I looked at that experience and I saw the overwhelm and how do we culturally begin to get people to be invested in cleaning up their areas, their rivers, their lands, it seems like a monumental task. It was the same feeling for Jagdish, and yet he took it upon himself to start cleaning up the river, and then the next river, and the next river, and the next tributary, and the next local village. And he developed the nickname the Riverman because his singular intention, his singular act of surrender and willingness to this process not only gave him that nickname, but has produced a movement where he is re-educating culturally these people to understand that this solution is dependent upon them. And so here we were, this man offering his time, and he's somewhat of a celebrity. He's the one who took us to the 2 caves of Sambari Baba. One cave has always been a part of an immersive project from the Neem Karoli Baba people. So they have a temple and all these temples in all these other locations. And in one of these, they built this temple surrounding the cave of Sambari Baba. in one region. I got to sit in it. I got to feel the magnetism of this being that had served so many so selflessly. And then he took us to the second cave, which was more remote. And get this, that cave had been closed for more than 100 years since the passing of Sambari Baba. And had only recently, within the last year and a half or so, been reopened. He took us to that cave as well. And so of the countless experiences that we've had, those two for me personally were the most electric, the most influential. To be able to go and to sit in silence where this man sat deeply affected me. The second one that had been closed for more than 100 years, I walked down into the sort of the inner, as far as one could enter into that cave to sit, and by myself. And I cannot express to you the depth of quiet. It was otherworldly, except for a fly. There was a fly in this cave, and when the fly was still, that quiet was so intoxicating. And then the fly would start to buzz. And at first I was annoyed. I was like, oh my God, can you imagine the depth of the stillness that I could enter if this fly wasn't here? And then I caught myself and I realized that the fly was perfectly positioned for my experience and for the impression of a lesson that I was about to receive. So think about the fly, and I want you to think about the universal annoyance that we all encounter in this human experience. And so I was able to reconcile in real time the fact that the fly was there, perfectly positioned to help teach me, to help guide me in understanding that that will always be a part of the dualistic nature of being human. And that I can spend countless time and energy and mileage and finances and whatnot to escape all of that. But the reality is it's there as a gateway to take our practice deeper. And so I sat in the dualistic nature, the rhythm of the stillness and the buzz of the fly, and the stillness and the buzz of the fly. I felt the potency of Sambari Baba. And as I sat there, just in awe and in gratitude for being able to be there to begin with, the synchronistic meeting of Jagdish and his invitation to take us there, a place that we would have never gone to. And as I'm swirling in all of this gratitude, I see this doorway, and I see hundreds of people pressing into the limited space, the portal to get through the doorway. And I'm just watching this image in my mind, in my consciousness. Scores of people pushing, anxious, striving, forcing to do whatever it is that they could to get into position to be able to pass through the doorway. And I was impressed upon, I felt that the doorway represented that sort of hungry ghost that never gets fully fed. It's the place that takes us to the there. And by the there, I mean the futurizing relief systems that we create in our mind. If I could only get there, then what is troubling me would end. If I could only get there through that doorway, if I could push, coerce, pay, find the right teacher, find the right circumstance, find the right geographical location, if I could just get there, all my problems would dissolve. And of course, as the saying goes, we can spend a lifetime trying to get there, only to realize that there is no there. This fictitious there is the ultimate illusion. And I saw and I felt and I experienced the universality of the destination of trying to get there. All of the things that we have participated in. You know, we go through, some of us go through academia to try to get there in order to prove our worth. Some of us follow and follow teachers and curriculum and things that we think will better us, because if we can just get there, or if we can just be in the proximity of there, then everything will dissolve. The paradox of me even sitting in the cave was a sort of a form of there. And I was beginning to realize personally how much of my own life had been consumed with the pursuit of there. Now, here's the beauty of this. We all must do that. What do you mean by that, David? Well, we can't bypass the human dualistic experience of the there. It's a part of the journey. We have to, what's the word? Expend all of our efforts in the there enough to come to the realization, the understanding that there is no there. You see, without our personal journeying, without our own efforting, we will never really fully understand what a quote like "there is no there" means. And so we have to go into the trap in order to get beyond the and to exhaust all of the efforting of the trap before we can have a new experience of what beyond means. And I find that that's been such a huge part of my own life. Maybe you can understand that. We spend so much time trying to prevent ourselves from the trap rather than going into the trap, and exhausting all of the efforts of trying to glean something from the this and the that. And we have to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. The relief is that, I see, that's a part of the roadmap of my own evolution. And yet we're trying to teach people to avoid that, and you can't. I can't help anybody bypass their own journey of the there, the seeking and the longing. They have to go through that themselves. But what I was being able to see in the pushing and the shoving of people trying to get through the doorway to the there was for my own lesson. And so I said, okay, what happens if now I just watch and I don't participate in trying to crowd through the doorway? And what began to happen was the walls to the left and the right of the doorway began to dissolve. And what I thought was the solution of the there, what I thought was the remedy, what I thought was the happiness, what I thought was the resources of the there, were all here. And even though intellectually we know that, we teach that, we study that, we're still massively unconscious to the reactionary efforts of trying to get there. And so to witness my own participation of that, my own worries, trying to fund and sustain our nonprofit, being in the midst of the poverty and also the jubilance of the education, our children, our communities, the wash programs, the hygiene and sanitation, all of those things are a part of the inescapable need of being human. And I don't know about you, but my day-to-day workings with that create a sense of there, trying to get there, trying to target the goal, trying to fund the programs, worrying, will we meet our objectives? And even though all of that is a part of being human, there is this powerful, potent ability to be able to hold both. Not to make one go away, but to hold the dualistic experience of need with the assurance that the need is filled right here, not there, but here. And that becomes the lifelong lesson. To not dismiss the human experience, to not bypass the need and the striving and the illness and the warring and the poverty, but to hold all of that safely within the coupling of its own solution, its own perfection. And so what that means is I constantly have to relinquish that compulsion for the there. I have to notice it. I have to notice my participating in the pushing through the door. Oh, I'm not getting this from this person. Oh, I need this. Oh, I can't get this organization, this company, this conglomerate to call me back. And we get so spiraled and worked up. And we have to take a breath and go, I'm pushing in the doorway. And the reality is not only do the walls of the doorway begin to dissolve, but the doorway itself begins to dissolve. And I really, really understood at a depth that I had never understood before of what be here now means. The profundity of Ram Dass's book title, his experience, all of the other experiences that you and I have had in understanding the preciousness of the now moment, all came flooding to me in Sambari Baba's cave. And so I leave you with this first message back from India with your own, hopefully an invitation for you to have your own experience of your participation in the pushing through the door. What are you efforting in right now? What is the long-standing struggle? And can you gently begin to see that all that is the indoctrination of duality? We've all been taught that, and we don't want to make it wrong. You and I cannot have the experience of the dissolving of that until we understand our own limited participation. And so there's beauty in our unconsciousness. There's deep compassion and reverence for the fact that we chose to go through all of this, all of the suffering, all of the ills of the world, of what it means to be human. And so as we begin to have more self-love and self-understanding, okay, I get it. I've been a part of this sort of seeming illusion. I can begin now to step back and take a breath and begin to not push so much, to not strive so hard for something that is seemingly futurized, and can begin to soften and realize that the walls and the there are just a part of a thought programming that have no basis in reality. And I can begin to be more gentle with myself. I can begin to understand that my point of power, my manifestation, if you will, is already here around me. All that is required is for me to soften, take a breath, and stop pushing. Stop trying to navigate through an illusional, finite pathway, and to realize that all that I need, that my connection to that infinite supply truly is right in front of me. I do not have to do anything to deserve it or earn it. All that I am required to do is to relax and to allow. To relax and allow, no matter what it is. Hear me, no matter what it is right here in the now. Blessings. Thank you. Till next time.